Where do you begin when you're writing a series such as Liar or Relic that has a very tangled, complicated narrative? Do you start at the end of what you know is going to happen and work backwards, or do you divide it up into sections? Like, how do you stop yourself from getting lost in the confusion of the storyline?
They're all different, I suppose. One's, Liar's a very different one to Relic, because you're like, it's a very simple premise. It's like two people who's lying. Then the question is, well, who's lying? You know, our process was, one of them has to be lying. God, it's got to be him.
Yes. Yeah.
Two white middle-class writers writing about, a woman lying about a serious issue like that, I don't think is a good thing.
But it was very well done, because you really didn't think that he was lying.
Yeah, I found it, the people on Twitter going like, he couldn't do this, he's so handsome. You're like, fucking hell, we haven't really come on far, have we? A bit worrying. And a lot of them going, oh, she's being so complaining. You're like, yeah, she's been like,
she's been attacked.
Of course she's going to be in a bit of a mood, mental. And so that one was a process of, okay, that, and then plotting it step by step, sort of, how does this lie and the ripple effects of that thing in this community sort of affect everything, and how does it get more heightened, and how long can you hold off the lie before it feels like you're playing a game, which is why we decided halfway through to not have that. So it's always like a process of, in terms of, for this story, what's the best route for it in terms of, and the most truthful route without you sort of reaching for the great scene that you have to get through in a sort of cheaty kind of way. So it's sort of the most naturalistic way to the end of your story. And Relic was just a head fuck.
Yeah.
Stories have to have consequences for you to feel, that's the point of a story. People grow and you learn from them and you watch that, and that's cathartic and all that stuff. If you take that away, there are no consequences, so what is the forward motion, and what's it all about, really? So it was a really interesting exercise in trying to do that and give it a forward momentum whilst not actually having one, and that came from us figuring out that forward momentum is for the audience. They're learning stuff in terms of what they're receiving. In terms of story beats, they're learning more of the dramatic irony that maybe our characters don't have necessarily, our audience do, and that's sort of the interesting thing. So you can have reveals and revelations that the people on screen don't have, but the people watching it do. And that was, once we figured out that trick, we sort of had to repeat that 5 times.
Yeah. Actually, which leads me on to my next question, which is, how do you decide how long a series is going to be? Because some of yours are 4-parters, some are 6, and then 8. So how does that work out?
Much the mortgages are going out. It's it's weird, that one, because sometimes you're like, well, this is 6, and then sometimes you're like, well, no, it's 8. I think it's sort of certainly the missing, because it's a dual timeline. You're like, there are 2 lots of stories to tell, and that's sort of 4 hours of each timeline, actually.
Yes.
It's not that much. And we could have done 10 of them, is the truth. And we had to push hard to get 8. Relic, I couldn't have done any more than 6. In fact, halfway through I wanted to make it 4.
Yeah.
And 6 is the norm, isn't it, for the UK?
Yes,
so you're always going, if not 6, then why less? Because there's not enough story in there. Or why more? Because there's too much, you know. Just really, it's an obvious cliche thing. Very compelling original voices and stories. It can literally be anything. I don't think there's any specific sort of kind of show we want or look for, but the truth is we read a lot, and there aren't that many great writers or scripts out there. It's really, when a really great one turns up, everyone fights over them and knows who they are. You just know when you get them, you're like, oh, I can read this, and you before you know it, you finished it, and you're ringing people going, how do we get this?
Yeah.
And someone's already got it, so you cry.
So that's sort of unquantifiable magic formula then.
It is, yeah. I think it's just really well written and thoughtful and, clever and original.
Yeah.
It's easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.